Leopold II was one of the most evil men in history. The atrocities that were committed in his own African playground were nothing short of genocide. These atrocities were particularly associated with the labour policies used to collect natural rubber for export. Together with epidemics, disease, famine, and the falling birth rate caused by these disruptions, the atrocities contributed to a sharp decline in the Congolese population. The magnitude of the population fall over the period is disputed, with modern estimates ranging from 1 million to 15 million deaths. At the Berlin Conference of 1884, the European powers allocated the Congo Basin region to a private charitable organisation run by Leopold II, who had long held ambitions for colonial expansion. The boom in demand for natural rubber, which was abundant in the territory, created a radical shift in the 1890s, facilitating the extraction and exportation of rubber, a labour policy known by critics as the Red Rubber System, which created to maximise its extraction. Labour was demanded by the administration as taxation. This created a slave society, as companies became increasingly dependent on forcibly mobilising Congolese labour for the collection of rubber. Workers who refused to supply their labour were coerced with constraints and reparations. Dissenters were beaten or whipped with the shiot. Hostages were taken to ensure prompt collection, and punitive expeditions were sent to destroy villages which refused. A native paramilitary army, the Force Publique, were also created to enforce the labour policies. Individual workers who refused to participate in rubber collections could be killed and the entire villages razed. Failure to meet the rubber collection quota was punishable by death. Meanwhile, the Force Publique were required to provide the hands of their victims as proof when they had shot and killed someone, as it was believed that they would otherwise use the munitions, which were imported from Europe at a high cost, for hunting or to stockpile them for a mutiny. As consequence, the rubber quotas were in part paid off in chopped off hands. Sometimes the hands were collected by the soldiers of the Force Publique, sometimes by the villagers themselves. There were even small wars where villages attacked neighbouring villages to gather hands, since their rubber quotas were too unrealistic to fill. In theory, each right hand proved a kill. In practice, to save ammunition, soldiers sometimes cheated by simply cutting off the hands and leaving the victims to live or die. Several survivors later said that they had lived through a massacre by acting dead, not moving even when their hands were severed, and waiting till the soldiers left before seeking help. In some instances, a soldier could shorten his service term by bringing more hands than the other soldiers, which led to widespread mutilations and dismemberments. Leopold II reportedly disapproved of dismemberment because it harmed his economic interests. "I cut off all the rest of them but not their hands. That's one thing I need in the Congo." Despite these atrocities, the main cause of the population decline was disease, which was exacerbated by social disruption caused by the Free State. A number of epidemics, notably the African sleeping sickness, smallpox, swine influenza, and amoebic dysentery, ravaged the indigenous population. In 1901 alone, it was estimated that 500,000 Congolese had died from sleeping sickness, disease, famine, and violence. Thank you for watching the video. Please would you like, subscribe and comment, as it helps me out with the YouTube algorithm.